I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 120, Managing Other People's Emotions. Your life does not have to revolve around your husband's pornography addiction. You are not defined by his choices or by what he sees on the screen. You are not just the Porn Addict's Wife. You are so much more. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to go from handling it to healed, because I've been where you are and you don't have to stay there. My name is Jolene Wynn. I'm a member of the LDS Faith, a certified life coach, and a wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the Porn Addict's Wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you guys doing? Happy Monday is when this podcast comes out. I hope you guys are having a great end of summer. If it's Monday, I don't know where it is, where y'all live, but in North Carolina, everybody went back to school today. So there are buses on the road again and everybody driving to get their kids to school. And all my neighbors are so excited that their kids are back in school. I'm homeschooling my kids this year, so we did not start school today. We're going to start next week after Labor Day. And so they did not go back. And I actually love it. I know I'm so weird, but I love having my kids home with me. And I love not having them in public school. It's been the best and I love it so very much. So I'm excited. I actually am homeschooling all 5 of them. You guys, my oldest is in 5th grade, so we'll have 5th, 4th, 2nd, kindergarten, and preschool. They're so excited. It's very cute. It's very, very cute how excited they are. I think the thing that I'm most nervous about is learning how to do fractions. Again, my 5th grader, doing math with her, not my forte. So that is something that I'm a little bit stressed about, but it's going to be great. I'll just have to relearn how to do it right along with her. It'll be great. And she can teach me the things that I don't understand. And then we'll ask her dad to help with her homework, and that will be great. Oh, you guys. Okay. So again, real quick calendar. I know you guys are probably getting tired of the calendar, but here we go. Okay. Next Tuesday, you guys, is September 6th, and that is book launch day. And I'm so excited about it. You guys, I cannot wait for you guys to read my book, The Not Enough Wife. It comes out again. It launches on Amazon next Tuesday. I cannot wait. And in celebration of that, I am hosting Book Launch Coach Week next week. So go to my website, jolenewynn.com. You can go to Coach Week. It will have the information on there. I am going to have to change the time of the calls. It was going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern every day. It's now going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern every day. So I will be changing that. But don't worry, if you've registered, if you can't make the call live, you will have access to the recordings. So make sure you sign up so that you can get access to the calls and you can come get coached. It's just a celebration of the book. And I'm going to be doing some giveaways during that week for those that are able to come live. And I'm so excited. So go sign up for Coach Week. You can come to the call anonymously. You can just submit your question. You don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, but it will be done via Zoom. So you can come anonymous. You can leave your camera off. You can just type in your question. That way you make sure that you get coaching on your specific issue or struggle or circumstance or thought. This is all for you guys. It's totally free. Grab a friend and come celebrate the book and come get coached. Also, ladies, if you guys are thinking about coming to Nashville, now is the time to sign up. We had 3 or 4 more spots get taken last week. And I think people are starting to see it's about 6 weeks away. Ladies, I'm so excited. And there are still spots left, but if you've been thinking about it, go register today. You just have to head to my website, jolenewynn.com. You can go to the events tab. It has all the details on there. And you can even sign up directly through that tab. You just scroll down to the bottom of the page. If you're a client, you can sign up. It's $900. If you're not a client, it's $1,200. So there is a client discount. If you want to get the client discount, all you have to do is go sign up to become a client, and then you get the client discount. So then you can have both. And I did have a couple of questions come in about that this week, so I wanted to answer them here. One was, do you have to have a spouse struggling with pornography use in order to come to Nashville? And the answer is no. Okay. I did have someone who their girlfriend is signed up to come with them. So this would be so fun. Get your girlfriend. I have a couple of friends myself that are thinking of coming who do not have this struggle. The things that we talk about and the tools that I am teaching while we are there are applicable to any situation. And they're going to be tailored to these 15 women specifically? This was the other question that I got this week, was what exactly are we going to be talking about while we're there? And a lot of that depends on what these women specifically are struggling with. This is a small, very intimate gathering, and I want it to be tailored to these women. So for those that have already signed up and anybody that signs up beforehand, right, the 15 women that are coming, I am going to be reaching out to them and asking them to submit ahead of time things that they're struggling with specifically. And that is what is going to help influence what we talk about and the tools that I teach while we're there, because I want this to be an experience where they get the most out of it. So if there is something that you are struggling with, maybe on this podcast, if you're really resonating with it, but you're having a hard time applying it, I really want to encourage you ladies to sign up to come to Nashville. This is nothing I have ever done before, and I'm so excited about this opportunity to really give you guys my undivided one-on-one attention. So go ahead, again, go to my website, jolenewind.com, sign up today so that you can get your travel figured out, so that you can make sure that your spot is reserved. Grab a girlfriend and come, have her come with you. Make a trip of it. It's going to be so fun. I cannot wait to spend these 3 days with y'all and to really just move you forward. It's going to be amazing. So again, go to my website, jolenewind.com, and let's go. And I'll see you in Nashville. All right, ladies, today I want to talk to you guys about managing other people's emotions. I think it's fascinating that we even use the word managing, because it's actually impossible to do. Did you guys know this? It sounds really nice. It sounds beautiful to say that you're going to manage someone else's emotions, but emotions, ladies, are not meant to be managed. Did you know this? Emotions are meant to be felt, to be processed. Now, by felt and processed, I do not mean reacted to. I do not mean distracted from. I do not mean ignored. I mean processed. If you don't know how to process, come join me in coaching and I will teach you how to do that. Emotions are not meant to be managed. They're meant to be felt. Okay? Now, what happens is that we often try to manage or dictate the way that other people feel. And we do this with the best of intentions, especially when it comes to our spouse and our children. Those are the main examples that I'm going to give today, especially with our spouse, okay? Especially if he's struggling with depression or with a pornography addiction or use, right? Now, here's what happens is that we mean it in the best of ways, right? And I've heard this so many times. Think of how you guys use this. It's typically said in a nice phrase, such as, I don't want to add to his stress, or I don't want to make her anxious, right? Those are beautiful phrases. And all that is a very sneaky way of trying to manipulate how the other person feels. Now, manipulate is a strong word. And this is why we use the word manage, because it sounds much nicer than manipulate, but ultimately that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the way that the other person feels, which, if you guys have been around here long enough, you understand that that is impossible to do, which is why when we attempt this, it often leaves us exhausted. Okay? Let me give you guys an example. I was talking to a new friend of mine. I talked about this on Instagram last week. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you can, at Jolene Wind Coaching. And I was talking about, I met a new girl last week, a new friend, and we were talking about how she was talking about how she tries to prevent her husband from feeling more stressed. He's in medical school. She knows that he's stressed. So what happens is she tries to make him not add to his stress. So I said, yeah, but here's the problem with this, is that when you try not to add to his stress, when your thought is, well, I don't want to make him feel more stressed, then what happens, at least in the interaction that we were discussing, was here's an example of what happens next. So he calls her in the middle of the day, and let's say she's having a terrible day with the kids, and everything is just going a mess, and she's feeling super stressed or super upset or super anxious or frustrated or whatever it is. And her husband calls and she's like, well, I don't want to add to his stress. So he says, hey, well, how's your day going? And she's like, totally fine. Well, then what happens is when he gets home and now frustration has built for the last 6 hours, then he walks in and he can say something completely unrelated. He can say, hey, did you get a chance to move up the laundry today? And she could lose her mind. Have you guys ever experienced this? And she just goes off about how that's unfair and no, she didn't get a chance to move with the laundry because she was too busy dealing with his kids and how much of a mess they were, and it was so frustrating, and how dare he judge her for all the things that she didn't get done, and blah, blah, blah. Have you guys ever done this? Something like this? The problem with this is that then what actually happens is you try to avoid adding to his stress by keeping it all bottled in, right? But then what happens is later when you're unable to process that in a healthy way, you end up exploding even more on something might even be completely unrelated, which then actually causes him more stress, which is exactly what you were trying to avoid in the first place. So this is what happens when we try to manipulate other people's emotions. It's first of all impossible to do because you can't predict their reaction. But second of all, it's impossible to do, and we end up creating a lot of times the very situation that we're trying to avoid. And it comes wrapped up in this beautiful package, right? Just like, I don't want to add to his stress. Okay? Now here's what I want to offer, and I want to encourage you ladies to take a look at this with an example specifically. Like, think of a situation in your own life recently where this has come about, right? It might be with your spouse or one of your kids. And what I want to offer you guys is that you think about, why don't I want them to feel this emotion? Because that's what it is. It's trying to manage how they're feeling. Why am I trying to do that? And what if I didn't? Okay, typically what happens is we're trying to manage someone else's emotions so that we feel better. Okay, I don't want to add to his stress. Well, why not? Well, because I don't want him to feel stressed. Well, what if you just allowed him to feel stressed? Well, doesn't that make me a bad person? I don't want to cause him stress, right? That makes me a bad person. That is the thought that usually comes up, is we think that if we stop trying to manage how other people feel, then there's nothing preventing us from just being totally mean. Okay, just being a really rude person who is just out to get everyone else and doesn't care if you hurt other people's feelings. That's not what I'm suggesting. I am not saying that you then go start saying everything on your mind and you just become evil and rude. And that's not what's going to happen. You're still a good person. You still don't want to hurt other people's feelings. But if you understand that all that's going to happen is they're going to feel an emotion, and that's the worst thing that can happen, and that it's okay for them to feel their feelings, then you can start acting in a way that is true to how you feel, not because you are ignoring how they feel, but rather in an attempt to manage your own emotions, not theirs. Does that make sense? What happens is we often try to manage other people's emotions at the expense of our own. And I just gave you an example of how well that usually works out, right? Let's do another example. I think I've shared this with y'all before, but this comes up a lot. I had a client one time who was worried about her daughter in school, and her daughter gets really anxious about taking tests. And she was like, she's not a good test taker. I just don't want her to feel anxious. I want to do everything that I can to prepare her beforehand. Like, how should I talk to her? And she was kind of having anxiety about her daughter's anxiety. And I said, what if you just allowed your daughter to feel anxious? And she hadn't even thought of that before. Because most of the time, what comes up in our brains is that we want to solve other people's emotions. We want to change how they feel. We want to manage how other people are feeling. And again, it sounds really nice. It sounds like, well, I don't want her to feel anxious, which sounds beautiful. But what if you just allowed her to feel anxious? And what if you told her, you know what? You're feeling anxious, and that's totally normal before a test. Totally fine. You can just feel a little anxious, feel a little nervous, and take it anyway. Ladies, do you see what I'm saying? Most of the time, when we try to manage other people's emotions, it's because of how it's making us feel, right? My client was feeling anxiety about her child's anxiety. And so she wanted to solve her child's anxiety in order for her anxiety to go away. Do you guys see that? The problem is that you're doing it backwards. When you're trying to solve someone else's anxiety so that you can feel better, it's never going to work. You solve your own first. What if you just gave yourself permission, first of all, to just feel the anxiety, or to just let your daughter have anxiety and then yours goes away? You don't have to feel anxious just because someone else is feeling anxious. Now we have twice as much anxiety, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Now, again, this is something that is very tricky to do when our husband struggles with pornography, because one of the things that we want to do is try to manipulate his emotions in order to change his behavior, right? Because everything that we even if we didn't understand the model before, now we understand it's that our thoughts create our feelings and our feelings drive all of our actions, right? And we understand that about our husband. Even if you didn't understand that literally, conceptually, subconsciously, you understand it, right? I understood this subconsciously for years. When my husband was struggling with his addiction, I knew that when he was more stressed, things were worse. Right? So I was constantly trying to manipulate his feelings. I was constantly trying to manage his emotions, trying to make him not feel stressed. Right? So I would have the house in a certain way when he got home. I wanted to make sure that the kids were fed. I wanted to make sure that I made dinner. I wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of in a certain way in an attempt to try to lower what he felt, to decrease his stress. And that sounds really, really pretty, but it's impossible to do. And the whole reason why I wanted to do it was try to make him feel better so that he didn't do what he did when he was depressed, right? I was trying to solve his emotions and his actions. Ladies, the problem with trying to do this is that it's impossible and it leaves you feeling exhausted. This is why you feel like you're running around with your head cut off, like a chicken with your head cut off, or running like a hamster wheel, right? And you're just going, and you feel like you're going to just keel over and die because you're emotionally drained. That's what happens when you try to manage everybody else's emotions, especially your husband's. Okay, so if you are struggling with this, I want you guys to encourage you to take a look and see where you're doing this in your life. Who are you doing this with? And be careful, because again, it's going to come up in these really pretty phrases. And I want to encourage you to take a look at when this is happening and then ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I not want to add to his stress? What if I just was okay if he felt a little stressed? And here's what I want to offer is that you also can't predict the future and you have no idea how he's actually going to feel about it. Let me give you guys an example. Okay, when I was a kid, I remember there were a couple of times where I really wanted to do something and I was like, I know my mom's going to say no. So ahead of time, I would just like plan out this fake scenario of a dialogue, and then she's going to say this, and then I'll rebuttal with this, and then I had all my arguments lined up, and I'd go to my mom because I was certain she was going to say no, and I asked her this question, and she was like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, wait, what? Do you guys know what I'm saying? I was like, no, but I have all of these reasons why I should be able to do the thing that you just told me that I can do because I thought you would say no, right? And so that's one of my examples of how you think that you know how the person is going to react. You think you know how they're going to feel, but you actually don't. And so we orchestrate our lives in a way to try and prevent the other people in our life from feeling a certain emotion. And that's all based off of our prediction. And we don't actually have any knowledge. We don't actually have the ability to predict the future and say, this is exactly how they're going to react. We don't actually know how they're going to react because they have their own thoughts and their own feelings that are going to dictate how they react. And they have control over that, not us. So when you are trying to manage other people's emotions, it is all based off of this really nice thought that it's going to make them feel better. But it's all an attempt to make ourselves feel better. And it ultimately leads to us feeling extremely exhausted and burnt out. And that's not what I want for you ladies. So go look around, see where this is happening. Just keep your eye open, turn on your brain, notice where this is happening. And if you want help, come coach with me. You can come join Coach Week next week for free. Bring it to the calls. I will help you work through it. And I'll see you next week. So take care. All right, ladies, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take it to the next level and we actually start applying and learning the how of moving forward. This podcast has taught you the what, and the coaching program is where you're going to learn the how. This is where you learn how to actually start moving forward, process all of that pain that you feel, and let it go once and for all. If you are ready to finally move forward and stop living a life that revolves around your husband's pornography addiction, then I want to invite you to come join me today. Just head to my website, joleneWynn.com, and sign up today. I can't wait to see you there.